welcome to the 10th episode of the Katknits podcast. So I'm Kat, and in this podcast, I just like to talk about anything to do with yarn or knitting, things that I'm excited about, and projects that I'm working on. So today I have a couple work in progress pieces, a finished object, and then I just have some general things that I wanted to chat about. Well, I was kind of looking back and I realized that this is actually my 1 year anniversary of doing podcast episodes. So I do one a month. And as you can see, I did miss a couple months there. And that is because over the summer I was hiking the Pacific Crest Trail, which I've mentioned before, but basically it is a 2,600 mile, around like 4,400 kilometer trail that runs from the southern tip of South California, right at that Mexico border, and that runs all the way through California, Oregon, Washington, and then it ends at the Washington border with Canada. Look what we did! Just got to the top of Forester Pass. So proud. We're the only ones up here. So I'm just gonna, there's that view, where's where we just came from. And then this is where we're going. So I spent 4 months hiking a portion of that trail, and that's why I have 10 episodes this year. But I'm pretty excited because, I think this has been such a fun learning opportunity for me. I hope this has been fun to watch, but just learning how to talk in front of a camera, also what kind of setup you need, how important lighting is, all the stuff around YouTube. I just feel like it's been a bit of a fun journey, learning slowly. I think the episodes have slowly gotten better, and I think they'll hopefully just continue to move on that front. It's been a beautiful September in Vancouver, BC, which is where I live. It's been straight sunshine, and it was exciting because this past weekend was Knit City, which is a Canadian knitting or fiber arts expo. It happens in Vancouver and also in Quebec. And they hold it at the Petite, which is, I think it's something national exhibit. So it's kind of like where our amusement park is. And then they held it in the arena, which is where I normally actually watch the Super Dog show when the Petite is in town. So that's where these dogs do all these little tricks. But anyway, so it was in this giant open space, and then there were probably maybe 20 to 30 vendors there. And the awesome thing about Knit City is it's all local. I'd say it's mainly like Western Canada indie dyers, and that's really your only opportunity to see them. So we went last year, but we were just overwhelmed the whole time. But we ended up finding some brands, and we were really excited because they went this year. And I didn't end up buying wool, and we actually bought very little wool last year just because we were just like trying to take it all in. But this year we actually were able to go back to those vendors that we had wanted to buy wool from and bought wool from them. Some of those vendors that it seems like we kind of gravitate towards is it's called Iris, and they do really beautiful colors, as well as they have really unique blends. So they had I think it was 10% cashmere, 20% silk, 70% merino, and then they had another kind of really high luxury blend. So my mother-in-law got this beautiful red to do the Petite knit anchor tee. And then we checked out Tofino yarn, or Tofino knits. I'll make sure I'll include also at the bottom of the video, but also whenever I'm talking about something, I like to do show notes. So I'll include links just because sometimes I do make mistakes with remembering the names of things. But we checked out Tofino, and they have beautiful sets. The really thing I love about them is they have all these samples at the store, and then they have kits. So they have beautiful mohair, and they have these great kits. And actually we saw a couple sweaters there that looked really beautiful. They had like the Petite knit everyday sweater, I think it is, which is just a very similar sweater to this, knit up in one strand of fingering and then one strand of mohair. And the last one is Fidley Dyeworks, which is, I won 2 of their yarns last year. And then this year, I picked up some of those yarns. So those were the 3 that we kind of really focused on this year. Another one was Sunday Fibers. They had a much smaller showing this year. But we also then, of course, got some new ones that we liked looking at. So I'm excited because now, you know, the next year I'm going to definitely go back and then slowly kind of expand. It's hard taking in all that wonderful stuff at once. So it was a great, fun, busy weekend. We were there, we bought the Saturday morning, so we were there from 10 to 1, which was 3 hours, and honestly, it was exhausting. They had a section on like CSM, so circular knitting sock machines, CSM, yeah, circular sock machines, which are these beautiful, I think they were invented during World War I for knitting socks for soldiers. So the women would be cranking out these socks. So cranking because it's like a manual thing that you turn, and then it's a circular, I guess, I don't know, gears. And then as you turn, it like slowly knits the tube of the sock. And you can like turn heels and do ribbing and all sorts of fun things. So there was a CSM demo. There was also a floor loom, as well as like a rigid heddle, which I think is just like a small, it can be tabletop or you can get like a floor stand for it. It's just so much to do. They also offer courses. This was the first year that they did courses since the pandemic, but I didn't do any of those. I'm still a student, and so I just don't quite have the money there. But eventually I definitely want to do it. And now to the knitting. So as you can see, I have finished my sweater, and I absolutely love this. So this is the Cozy Classic Raglan by Jessie Maed. I think she just knocked it out of the park with this. So typically you would hold together a strand of fingering with a mohair lace weight yarn. However, she talks about this in the pattern, I did a DK weight yarn that had mohair in it. So this is a mohair BFL nylon mix. And here, I'll just stand up. Hard to do a twirl with the chair, but this is, I just think the fit on this is incredible. I think maybe for my shoulders, this kind of raglan style is more suitable. The pattern is very lengthy. It talks about all sorts of modifications, like doing fades, different shoulder lengths, different bodies. So I went with the looser body just because I like a baggier sweater. A couple modifications that I did is I ended up adding 6 inches to the body, just because I wear kind of lower, like mid-rise pants, and I like my sweater to cover some of the pants just so I can move around and don't have to have any showing skin. So I got 2 of these cones, and as you can see, I still have quite a bit of yarn left, which I was expecting to have a fair amount left. But this is actually, I'm thinking I can make like the Oslo Petite knit hat with this, because I've always wanted to knit that hat. And I think I definitely have enough. Like I think this is probably 100 grams. I'd say this is like half, because I think they were 200 gram cones, I believe. Not quite, can't remember now. Unfortunately, I don't have the brand of this yarn. I just bought it at Cones at West Coast Wools in Vancouver. The colors are insane. So there was a beautiful like hot pink, like really, they're all really rich jewel tones. So I went with this kind of tealy color, which I'm very happy about. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I talked about I added 6 inches to the body, and then I also, when I picked up for the underarms, which I haven't actually woven in any of my ends yet. And typically I'll use like the end that's in the armpit to like tidy up the armhole, just because I find it's hard not to get like some holes in your armhole, like when you in your armhole, in your armpit. So But I did this new technique, which I've talked about a couple times. Suzanne Bryan on her YouTube channel. I'll link to it. But because if you see, like, look how good my armpits look. But what you do is you actually pick up extra stitches along that section, and then you knit them backwards to like kind of tighten them, and then you just decrease right away. So I did that. I ended up picking up 3 extra in each armhole just to tighten it up a little bit better. And then I added another 1.5 inch, I'd say, before I did the cuff. One thing I also love about her pattern is, you know how you have to do, like, you do the arm decreases very regularly. And normally they tell you like how many centimeters it is, but she actually told you how many stitch it is. And I just, you know, whenever you can just know how many rows you have to do versus how many inches, I just think that's lovely. The arm, and she mentions this, is a little tight. I haven't wet blocked this. As you can see, it's still not quite done yet. But I'm gonna kind of wet block them to be a little bit bigger. I would like the arms to be a little bigger because they are tight. I tend not to I just don't really love tight clothing. But I think, yeah, so added extra length, did that addition to the arms, and then swapped out the yarn substitution, and then added a little bit extra length to the arms. Those are the 4 modifications that I did, and luckily I finished this just in time to kind of wear it for fall, since we're starting to get into October. I got to use my Chiagu shorty needles when I did the arms, got for the cuff, so that was fun. I really want to invest in the blue. I have the red shorty set, which I'll just grab that right now. So I have the red shorty set, which is all the super tiny needles. Oops. They're falling out on me here. So these are mainly for socks, and then I can do socks and then cuffs and typically like necks because they're in the small enough size. And then it comes with multiple cables. But right now I'm using some for, like, I do 9-inch circulars for socks, and then this is, I don't know where this little tiny thing is. I gotta find it in my apartment, but this is what the size that I used. Oh, sorry, this is the size I used for the cuffs. But I'd love to get. They have a blue set which has thicker needles, and then I could do actually the entire sleeve without using magic loop. So that would be fun. But yeah, I'm super happy with this pattern. I definitely would do it again. The yarn. Oh, I just realized my fly was kind of undone. Hope that wasn't in the other shot. So far it seems super soft. I think it's very wearable, this design, you know, a solid color. It's very classic, I would say. It fits well, and I could definitely see this becoming a staple in my wardrobe. I am kind of curious to see what happens to the mohair. So at the Knit City event, there were some mohair sweaters that had clearly been worn, and you could see like some pilling happening. So I'll have to report back in the new year to let you know how the yarn held up. But I would definitely knit this again. It is a lot of stockinette, which can be a tad bit boring. I think my only improvement that I'd want to make to it is there's this extra fabric around the arms. And I don't know too if that's because I did add extra stitches, so then the arm is extra wide when it joins. Like I said, I added more stitches on the bottom to get rid of the armhole, but I don't know if that actually caused a little bit of this excess fabric. I don't know too if it's just, for me, this is a deeper yoke than what I actually need. Like maybe I should actually be stopping the raglan sooner and just backwards loop casting on more stitches underneath the arm. I'm not sure, but that is something I think I'd want to experiment with future raglan sweaters. So one thing I did mention is that, like, this is a year, and I was kind of thinking about you know, what is cat knits next year gonna look like? And for me, two things that I want to focus on, which I've kind of talked about a bit before, is sock construction. So I haven't been doing a heck of a lot of sock knitting, but I will be because Christmas is coming up and I'd like to give away 3 pairs of socks, which, oof, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. But anyways, so sock construction. And so I've gone through, I think I've done 3 different heels now. The shadow wrap, afterthought, and then the classic gusset. So I kind of want to keep doing more sock construction. And then the other thing is sweater construction. So this is a Raglan. I've done a drop shoulder sweater, and then I've done it's more of like a round yoke, but it was that giant knit collage one with the steeking. And then since I finished this sweater, I casted on a new sweater. And that is the Flower Power Cardi by Cheryl Kubat. Check out this swatch. It's just like so cute. It's like a little puffy cloud of heavenly goodness. So this is Dream in Color Savvy, which is 100% merino. This is what my main color will be for the sweater. It's so soft and squishy and fluffy. I'm just curious. I hope it wears well. I can kind of see it's like, hopefully it looks like it could pill pretty easily. It's non-superwash, so it will felt. So this is my main color, and I could not believe it. I actually got gauge. This is the first time I've ever gotten gauge on something, and I don't have to do any modifications. I can just live with what it is. I don't got to change the needle or try to change the pattern. So that made me happy. It's got little speckles in it of blue and green. So then when I chose contrast colors, and the contrast, so it actually has a giant daisy in it, this pattern. It is hosted by Knit Collage, and it was in the last, I think 3 or 4 years ago. It was in their knit along that they host every spring. And it was in there for 2 years, so then they eventually released the pattern on their website. You have to buy it on the Knit Collage website. So I was very excited when I saw that it was available to purchase, so I bought it. And I actually picked up this yarn while I was on my trip this summer in Truckee, California. I went to the Truckee Artelier store there, which unfortunately they do not have an online store, but it was beautiful. I fell in love with this yarn, and then also they had this Bouches and Biches yarn, which was gorgeous and I hadn't heard about before. So I got this as the main color, which is a super bulky. And then I got 3 other contrast colors, which are also super bulky, and they're 100% merino. So the Dream in Color Savvy, it's actually in 150 gram. No, I think it's in 300 gram skeins. They're big skeins, big. Whereas these contrasts, this is actually Malabrigo, or I never know how to say it, or sorry, it's Malabridge, whatever. Rasta, it's also 100% merino, and this is also super bulky. So I got these to be my contrast colors. And as you can see, since they're all wound up and attached, I have started knitting it. So this is the wound up version of the Savvy by Dream in Color. And then this is my beautiful beginning of my daisy. So one of the reasons why I chose this pattern is you really get to learn a lot. And it has a couple things that I've never done before. One of those is it's like left to right construction. So that's why I'm actually starting at the sleeve. So you do the sleeve, the left-hand sleeve, and I'll knit like this, and then I'll do some like increases for the body. It's a cardigan. And then I'll go across the back, and then probably cast on merge the two together and then finish with the last sleeve. Also, this daisy is intarsia, so I'm learning about intarsia. And there was one other thing that I was excited about with learning, but now I can't remember what it was. Anyways, one thing though is I don't love my order of color choices. So right now I have orange, dark purple, and then this is some leftover. Oh, there's a motorbike. I'll just let them pass. Sweet, they're gone now. So I have orange and then purple for the petal. Then I have this knit collage brown that I had left over, and then I was going to do pink for the center. And I'm just not really happy with it. So I've decided I'm going to redo it. I don't really want to buy any more yarn. I'm kind of tapped out. So I'm going to do the purple on the outside, which is also a lot higher contrast than the yellow with the white. So I think it'll actually better define the daisy shape. As my friends have been telling me, I've been talking to them about how to switch this up. And then I think I'll do the light pink petal, and then with the purple as where that outlines the center. Again, do the dark purple, and then I'll do yellow in the center. And one of the things I didn't really realize with intarsia is check out, I think I currently have 9 balls attached to this. So you split your balls into portions, because based on the chart, you're knitting back and forth. So for instance, like this petal, you know, there's this section and there's this section. So each of those are actually 2 different balls, because when you go from here to here, you're not going to carry the yarn across that huge gap. I guess you could actually, but I haven't. And then I've been going, and then eventually you join the 2 together. But it's been fun. It actually creates this really pretty, in the pattern they talk about how to twist the yarns together to get this really pretty, like almost like locking. It almost looks to me like a stitch. And that helps prevent any, like, then you can see it's here, like any holes. I have forgotten to do it in some places, so I do have a couple holes in my sweater. But that's okay, because like I mentioned, I'm ripping it all out. I'm ripping it all out, so I'll get a chance to actually do the intarsia again and make it a bit better, use what I learned. The other thing that I'm not super duper happy about is, I don't know if you can tell, but here I actually ended up using like a different skein of the Savvy, and it's just, I noticed that all the speckles are actually concentrated to like one end of the ball, and then it's very white on the other end of the ball. And so I think I'm going to actually just, when I rip this out, I'm actually going to set aside that really dark speckled portion of the ball, and hopefully I don't need to use it at all. Hopefully I can get away with knitting the whole pattern without having to do that. Fingers crossed. The one thing that I really hate doing that I'm going to have to do is a lot of seaming for this pattern. So wish me luck. I have only seamed the baby surprise jacket, and that was a little bit of a mini nightmare. Nightmare is a bit strong, but it was stressful and didn't turn out as I was expecting. But this is giant wool, so I think it'll actually be a really good opportunity to learn seaming, because the stitches are so big that I'll really be able to see what I'm doing. And yeah, anyways, that's what I'm telling myself. I'm very excited about the sweater. I really want to get it done, hopefully by the end of October at least, so that I can wear it while it's still not raining in Vancouver, as it loves to do. The other project that I'm currently working on is the largest size of my Pacific Crest hat. I'm just going to move these earrings back. So this is the hat that I wore for my entire trip while on the Pacific Crest Trail. It is a very subtly striped hat. So it has 2 DK yarns and 1 fingering yarn. And I got it test knitted back in April, and I got some seriously awesome feedback. And I'm actually rewriting the pattern right now because of it. And when I did that, I increased all the sizes. So this used to be the large, and now this is the medium. And because I added a new size, I wanted to knit it up to make sure that the yardage was correct and I wrote the pattern well and all that good stuff. So this is the section of the beginning of my second Pacific Crest Hat, sorry, that's written by me. And this is, like I said, it's actually 2 DK yarns, so that are subtly striped. So both of my DK yarns are Sweet Georgia yarns, and I actually got both of those DK yarns in one of their mystery bags. So Sweet Georgia, which is an awesome Vancouver company, every year they do like a yarn sale on like kind of skeins that didn't maybe go as they were hoping, and they put them in these bags and you get, I think, 4 or 5 yarns per bag, and they're at a discount. So this is the third, and I've used one of them, and now I'm using 2 more. And they're super soft and beautiful colors. I actually don't know what's wrong with them. I can't tell. So these are the 2 DK yarns, and this one I believe is the Mohair Silk DK, and then this is their Superwash Merino DK. I think like this has also got Merino in it as the base, as well as I think it was some silk and mohair. And then for my fingering, which is held in the hat, I've got this brand this year, and I bought so long ago, and I haven't really had a purpose for it. This is, I think it's Uschitita. Let's see, Uschitita. Sorry, and it's a merino yarn, and I think it's European, but I bought this locally. And originally, I actually did not like the colors. This tends to be a theme with me, is when I first start knitting a project, I always struggle with my original color choices. But now I'm really loving the way it looks. I really love the way the blue and orange are kind of together and slightly united by that one orange thread. And since like this yarn has little speckles of pink and little bits of blue, it kind of adds a little extra fun and playfulness to the hat. So I'm just doing the tube right now before doing the decreases for the crown. And it fits well. It's gonna have, oopsies, that's just because I can't pull it up bigger, but it's gonna have a nice thick cuff. I need this, right now I just don't have my needles on it, so it can't spread wide enough to actually fit my head. But I'm hoping to get this done because I really would love to release the pattern really early fall. So I'm hoping to kind of release it, in the next few weeks. And in anticipation of releasing this pattern, I actually have made a lot of updates to my katknits website. And one of those, which I want to talk about, is I actually added a tool to the website where you can see how different, when you combine yarns together, what your new yarn weight is. So for instance, when you add a fingering and a silk, you get a fingering and a lace weight yarn. Then you get a DK. When you add a fingering and a DK, then you get an Aran, and you can actually do multiple yarns. So definitely feel free to check that out if you would find it helpful. I'll cut this to actually include a little demo of me doing it on the screen. But that was fun to build. I also updated my website, which is nice. That's katknits.ca. So katknits.ca. That's kind of cool, 1 year in, I got my website looking pretty good. Also on my personal website, I actually have blog posts about the Pacific Crest Trail. So that's at KERR.ca as well. And I think I've got maybe 4 or 5 blog posts up on the trail. I'm also doing a newsletter, which you can sign up for at the katknits site. And that newsletter is where I'm sending out some written diary entries of my hike. So if you are curious about the hike, check out those blog posts and then also sign up for my newsletter. I will be transitioning the newsletter from hiking to knitting, but just since I wanted to really document my entire trip, so I'm going to move through all the hiking before kind of talking about knitting. But I will in my newsletter as well, when I will mention the release date for my hat, which, you know, I'd say subscribe because I think it will likely be before my next podcast, which to me is insane. So one of the things that's exciting about October is the mystery, all the knit-alongs that happen. So I think Hohi has hers. There's also the Dre Renee knits. She does the Rhinebeck sweater knit-along. And then I'm actually doing, this is my first year, I'm doing the WestKnit's mystery knit-along. And that is for a shawl. I kind of have been monitoring it for the last couple years. And although I'm not a shawl person, there's just so many techniques that are brought into these shawls that I want to try one because I want to learn about new stitch patterns, and also I just think it's kind of a really fun idea to make this shawl. The one thing is, so I did set this goal where I will not buy any new yarn for 12 months starting September 1st, and I did well with that. As you can see, I've been knitting projects, and these are actually all projects that I have yarn for. I only had 2 DK weight yarns, and luckily they went together, and I chose them for this hat. But when I was looking through my stash to find yarns for this shawl, it's a fingering weight yarn, but you need 2 of a main color, 2 of a contrast, and 1 pop. And unfortunately, I just don't have duplicates of fingering weight yarn. I typically buy fingering weight yarn for baby items or for socks. So I just had all these kind of single skeins, and I didn't have enough to do it. I was like, oh darn. So then when I went to when I went to Knit City, I did end up buying some yarn for my sweater. And the one thing too that I find in order to get colors to really go together, at least for me, typically I need colors all dyed by the same brand. I think they just have a similar like tone or hue, and they all just tend to go together. So I ended up buying 5 skeins from Fidley, and they are a Vancouver, I'm pretty sure Vancouver, but anyways, they're from BC. They're dyed in BC. I absolutely love her colors. I have knit with this. This is their BFL sock. And I've knit with this, and I absolutely love knitting it with it for socks. So I decided, since I won 2 last year, I decided to buy all of them from her. And let me grab the other colors. They just fell off screen. We had a little bit of a yarn collapse, and it's now a mess, which I'll have to clean up. So these are the 5 skeins I got for my shawl. So I don't know yet, but I think this will be my main color, and this will be my contrast color. I have to decide. And then this is my pop. So I did go more subtle for the pop. WestKnit's, the patterns tend to be quite bold and really kind of unique, very like textured, lots of playing with color. But I think for me, in terms of actually wearing it, I need a little bit more subtlety. So this is like a slight speckle to it, which will be, I think nice. So this is Harlow colorway. This is Mia, and this is Alistair. And this is a bit more of like a muted, it's like a gray. I'd say it's like a very soft gray. And then this is like I tend to knit with purple, even though I never really buy purple, but this is like a very pretty purple. I would totally love a pair of socks in this purple. And then this is a bit more, I would say it's not quite a lavender. It's a little more pink than a lavender would be, a little more warm, less cool. But I think these 3, so it's these 3, I think they just, we'll see. I mean, it's a mystery what the shawl is going to look like, right? So, but I think I am going to do the Mia, so the dark color as my main color, and then I'll do contrast for that. But that starts October 7th. So I'll be posting to Instagram, and then I'll share my progress on that at the end of October. It's a 5 skein shawl, so it is going to be huge. Like this sweater, I think maybe 4 to 5 skeins, so somewhere in that. So it's this much knitting on a shawl. I don't think, like, you're supposed to do, it's broken up into 4 sections. So AKA I have to knit through more than 1 ball a week. Oh, we got a little siren going by. So I'd have to knit more than 1 ball a week, which is very unrealistic, especially since I want to finish, well, I think I can probably finish the hat before the beginning of this, but I will have the sweater that I want to work on. And I just honestly don't have that much time to knit. I mean, I think I probably could knit that much if I had that much time, but I'd love to I really want to graduate. So that's my main primary focus. This is mainly something fun to do in the evenings while winding down. We'll see. I shouldn't like sell myself short, but I'm almost positive that it's going to take me a couple months to knit this shawl. But it's fun. I'm going to join the community. So there's a forum on Ravelry, which I actually have not really ever used a forum before. So I can let you know how that goes, joining it, posting it, and I've always heard people meet others in these kind of these knit-alongs. So I'll make a bit of an effort. I did my first knit-along last fall with Knit Collage, and that was really wonderful. But I had the same problem where all the Zooms were actually when I had classes, and then I just didn't have enough time to knit. So it did take me, I think, almost 3 months longer than what it was supposed to finish the knit-along, which I think is normal. Like, people do take longer. I feel like I'm kind of setting myself up again, trying to do another knit-along when actually my school is typically October is when it ramps up, because that's about halfway through the semester. But anyways, you gotta go for it. You gotta just, I think with knitting, for me, I have a little bit of that kind of like perfectionism, kind of like super hard on myself. And I think knitting is a good way to kind of express that creativity and really help be kinder to yourself and learn and express yourself and just kind of enjoy the imperfections, because it's a handmade. There's a lot of beauty in imperfect things. So you just gotta enjoy it, embrace it, and also, like, if you miss a stitch, you're not gonna be able to see it. Like, I know some of these, there's short rows in the sweater, and I know that I didn't do the greatest turns on some of it, but I can't tell anymore. So you just gotta, sometimes you just need a little time between projects. But yeah, so this is what I'm excited about for October. And I've got this as well as finishing up those 2 projects. One of my things is, like I said, I'm trying to the first of every month, I'm actually emptying out all of my yarn stash and putting it on my kitchen table, just so that I can get that visual, be like, okay, this is how much yarn you own. You got this. Let's just keep knitting projects from this beautiful selection of yarn. So that's coming up in a week. And I think I actually have done some wonderful knitting from the stash. So like, I got this done, and yeah, I don't know, it's gonna be fun, I think, doing that every month. So I don't know if you have a stash of yarn that is mine's all tucked away in boxes, but if you have something similar, I think just looking at it regularly, because you kind of, I don't know, at least I tend to forget what's in there. So I think this is gonna kind of really bring it to my face, like and then also like all those projects that I was so excited, I bought the yarn for and I'm so excited about, now I'm gonna see that. So this year is really about me trying to use up a lot of the yarn in my stash. I have more than a year's worth of yarn of knitting, but just trying to get through all those projects that I'm excited about. So yeah. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is I actually got a job in a local yarn store in Vancouver. So I've started working at Urban Yarns, which is near where I go to school, and I do 2 shifts a week there. And I'm front of house, so I'm doing retail, and that has been so much fun. I'm learning lots. I haven't actually worked retail before, so learning all about, just how inventory works, but also it's fun because I get to, chat with other makers and see what they're making, learn about new patterns, kind of learn Obviously, other staff that work there are super knowledgeable and also knowledgeable in different areas. So even just chatting with them, I'm kind of learning, I didn't realize this, but maybe when you're doing a baby sweater, you shouldn't choose something that's necessarily very fluffy because they might inhale some of the fibers, which is not ideal. So that was just something I learned last week. And it's cool because I get to go through the store and kind of learn all about the different yarns. And I'm really now taking time to try to learn about different types of fiber and what does silk do? What does mohair do? What does alpaca do? What's kid silk versus what's kid mohair versus like regular mohair, and just kind of expanding myself that way. And it's also fun because so I'm there Mondays and Tuesdays, and every Monday and Tuesday is when they typically get new yarn into the store. So I get to help unpack it and stare at it and just kind of resist the urge. I guess this is really good, what's the word for that? Control training or learning how to resist. You do get, I think there is a discount, but I don't even want to ask because I have enough yarn. I am very happy with all the yarn that I have, and I want to knit it and enjoy it so that I can wear it rather than have it closed up in boxes or give it away, That's my plan. So yeah, I'm excited for October that's coming up. For me, I really want to go through this October. I'd love to go through my pantry. I want to go through my closet. I want to also go through, we kind of have this like storage area. My plan is hopefully to spend like every weekend, spend half a day organizing something, kind of decluttering and maybe buying some like fun organization bins. So that's my kind of excitement for October. Kind of shows my age, but I think, everyone always says that when they talk about, oh, I found this like fun spice, but those are all the things that really just make you happy. And I think at any age, it actually, when you're younger, you're just more excited about like going out. But what's, I guess that's like cooler, but like, being excited about organization is also fun. I totally get it. It makes your life I think it brings peace and, a little bit of like calmness whenever you look at it and you can find your stuff and you don't have excess stuff. So anyways, that's what I'm up to. And yeah, I hope everyone had a wonderful September. And if you have, it's kind of that back to school month. So hope everyone's I almost think of this as like the beginning of the year. So I hope everyone's kind of, beginning of the year is going well. And thanks so much for being with me for the last year. I'm excited to see what the next year brings. All the best. Bye.